Previously on Funny Science Fiction.
It's playtime! Gosling's mother, you want to play?
Hi, my name is Renae Jacobs, and I did the voice of April O'Neil on the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I'm on Funny Science Fiction Podcast. Welcome.
This is the podcast that taught Commander Riker from Star Trek Next Generation how to sit in the chair. All right, so our guest today is the original voice of April O'Neil on, of course, the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the TMNT that I grew up with today, kids. So we are so excited to have the one, the only Renae Jacobs with us here on the Funny Science Fiction Podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be with you, too.
When we talk to our guests, it's not uncommon for us to ask some routinely silly questions. So here goes the first one. Did you guys ever have a pizza party with the cast and crew of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, to kind of set the mood for upcoming shows? And if so, did any of these discussions or parties ever involve character voices?
Well, they did bring in lunch for us once in a while, and I'm sure that one or two of them was pizza. But we did not have a Ninja Turtle style pizza party. And we all did our voices all the time, anywhere we could, and in and out of the studio. So, we did a lot of ad-libbing. We did a lot of rehearsing, and definitely in character.
Okay, because in my mind, I'm just sitting there imagining, you guys all sitting around a table, talking in normal voice and everything, and then all of a sudden, boom, there it goes. There's like a full-on TMNT discussion. For whatever reason, that's what I pictured. So,
well, I assure you, there were times like that. They were probably just, a few minutes here and there. The guys did a lot of ad-libbing, and most of it happened in the studio. But sometimes outside of the studio, and then they'd use those in the scripts. We'd sneak them in.
Excellent. Okay. I like that.
So we've found that the majority of the voice-over actors that we've talked to actually have a background in musical theater, which, according to the internet, is also true for you. So what led you from being on stage in front of an audience to being the voice behind one of my husband's first crushes?
Oh, that's so great. Tell him I love him too.
Oh, I will.
That's one of the best questions I've ever been asked. Thank you. So when I was 6 years old, my parents took me to the theater, and we saw a musical called The Most Happy Fella. And at 6 years old, after the show, I asked my mom to take me up on the stage, and she did. And I looked out at the empty audience at that point, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. And it's exactly, that's always been my passion from that day on. And I was in musical theater, and I'm a trained opera singer. And but when we moved to California, I became part of a children's theater troupe, and we put on 4 plays a year. We did everything from Winnie the Pooh and different kinds of plays that were out there. And in each of those shows, I did different voices. And then in high school, there was an art teacher who did all these fabulous puppets, kind of like Muppet-type puppets. And he did those for Knott's Berry Farm, which is a theme park out here. There was a place called the Gypsy Camp, and they had these wagons, and in each of the wagons was a different puppet theater show, and I did all the voices for those. So I know this is a long way to get here, but so I went to college, and I studied opera, and I worked in theater. I worked all over the world singing. And when I came back to Los Angeles, my agent said, by the way, we have a voiceover department, and if you do voices, let us know. I said, well, as a matter of fact, I do. So I made a reel, and at that point, I started working right away. And so I got married, I have kids, And so doing theater became more cumbersome, more difficult, and just kind of transitioned into mainly voiceover at that point. So that's kind of the genesis of how I went from musical theater and music to voiceover. And you're right, Rob Paulson has a fabulous voice, and he was in a band, and Townsend Coleman and Cam Clark is part of a very famous family called the King family. They were on television and had their own show. It was a huge family, and Cam was in the show, and they did musical. So I think you have to have a musical range, a musical ability with your vocal cords in order to have a broad range to create voices. Some people will say, oh, I have this voice, and it's their voice, right? That's how they talk. And everybody says that I should do voiceover. And they say, well, do you have any other voices? No, but they love my voice. Like, well, I can do that voice too, and I can do a lot of others. So it's better to have a deck of, I call it like a deck of playing cards of voices to use to be able to create other voices, and not just one fabulous voice. It's not so easy to have just one voice.
And we have heard with the other voice actors that having that musical ear is what allows you to be able to match other voices and change your voice like that. So that is definitely a thing.
Yes, it definitely is.
I think that's a great answer too. Not long. It wasn't a long-winded answer. It was the perfect answer because I think that, and frankly, we like long answers. Long answers are great answers. So no, but it kind of gives us the whole scope of how you got from point A to point B and why you did what you did. And I think that for so many people who aren't familiar with voice actors and what voiceover artists do, I think they just assume that they, like you said, I've got this great voice and I walk into the booth and everybody's going to love me and that's what I'm going to do. But no, there's so much more attached to it. And I think that's a great thing to be able to show.
There is. And, I'm not one for popping anybody's dream, let me tell you. And I want to be encouraging, but it's not an easy world out there. And, if you want to do voiceover for fun, there's so many outlets now. You can build your own studio, create your own voices, put together your own, animation, all of that. And that's wonderful. But you really have to be multifaceted. You really should.
So we know you do a lot of work with the American Friends of Hebrew University. And so how did you get involved and why is it so important to you?
This is the kindest question. You guys are great. My father was a Holocaust survivor. He lost his entire family. He was Hungarian and survived Auschwitz and was liberated from Dachau by the American Army. And when he came to the United States, learned English over the summer, graduated from high school, college, dental school, orthodontic school, became a very big success. And he never asked for a handout, and he never expected the world to owe him a living. He always gave back. And he gave back in many ways. And one of the ways was supporting the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. It's a major university in Israel where Jews, Christians, Muslims, people from countries all over the world come together and study and learn how to get along with each other. And so I was always exposed to the university. We always felt that our family was at the Hebrew University because we don't have very much family. And when my father became very ill, my husband and I said we would take up the mantle and continue in his stead. And so for the last 20 years, we've done just that. And we've raised millions and millions of dollars for scholarships for students. And these are students from every religion and every background. They're just no better way to give someone an opportunity and change the world than give them education. And then through education, people learn how to get along and better understand each other. So that's why I'm very passionate about it. And that's kind of how we became involved with it. And I'm so proud that to date we've raised $12 million in scholarships. And I've got a big event coming up September 11th. And we will raise a heck of a lot more at that event. And, you got to do good in this world. That's your legacy. That's why we're here.
And what better way to honor your dad and to honor what he went through to give so much more? It's going to make me cry.
We all stand on the shoulders of so many people. We get our DNA checked, right? And you find out, oh, you're Italian and you're Moldavian and you're French. And you really have to think back, who were these people? What did they do? How did they enable you to get where you are? And you stand on these shoulders, and you have a responsibility as well to make sure the next generations survive and be good citizens of the world. That's what Turtles is about, It's about loyalty and friendship and honor. Turtles fight with honor, that means something. Brotherhood, friendship. I think that's why Turtles lasts throughout all of these years, is it really speaks to the kinder side of humanity and the way the world should be. There are forces out there that are evil. Okay. But, we can overcome those if we work together and have a little humor about it and not be so upset and insulted by words and thinking that someone has texted you something when they didn't mean it that way. We are all shocked by how Ninja Turtles has affected the world, and so proud. No one had a clue what we were involved with until years later when we started doing Comic-Cons, and fans would come up to us, shaking, crying. It's like, just people, when we love you as much as you love us. And the stories we hear about how Ninja Turtles got people through very, very difficult situations, bullying and abuse and being different. Rob Paulson's written a fabulous book, okay? That's called Voice Lessons. And, I'm a friend of Rob's, and I always look at him like, oh my God, he's so confident, he's so talented, he's never intimidated, he's never had a bad day in his life. And you read the book and you realize we are all human, and we are all fallible, and we are all needing each other. And you don't know what someone else's shoes are like to walk in. So it's just, we all need to give each other a little more slack, kindness. So I don't know
Absolutely.
where that question went.
No, you did fine. It's amazing how much nicer this world would be with just a little bit more love, a little bit more kindness, a little more patience and understanding with everybody. So it's awesome that you're able to do that with the university. Now,
and a little more pizza.
Pizza never hurt anything.
Pizza has never hurt anything. So I understand too, Renae, that for some time you lived in Lansing, Michigan for a while. And now I was born in Lansing, Michigan. And not that this has any bearing on anything. I just want to put it out there. Lansing General Hospital, 1976. How you doing? All right. But although you moved out to California, from what I understand, before your teenage years, do you still have some favorite memories of the Mitten State? And are you still smitten with the mitten, as some people like to say?
Okay, so that's so funny. Well, go Spartans. We left when I was about 9 years old. My best friend still lives in Michigan. I recently did a Comic-Con in Lansing and went back and, drove around my old house and Michigan State University. I used to go to Michigan State every weekend, my mother would drop me off. In fact, that's really how I got my voiceover start. When I was about 7 years old, my mom enrolled me in a class at Michigan State University for children. And there was a woman who did a show. It was called The Land of Play, I believe. And it was kind of like a romper room or a PBS. It was a Michigan State University TV station. And she did puppetry. And so she gave this class, showed us how to make puppets out of our favorite stuffed animals. And she told my mom, Renee's really talented and I'd like her to come with me. I visit schools and I teach children how to do this. And I'd like her to be part of the class. So I did that. And then she invited me to be on the show and I did voices for that show. So really that truly is how I got my beginnings in voiceover. I just called it puppetry, but it was voices. And the other thing that happened was my father won a huge set of records at a bowling tournament. And in those records were all the Disney classic albums that people may be collecting now because albums are back in. And they had you'd open them up and they'd have a book with all the pages of the storyline, be it Cinderella or Peter and the Wolf or just every Disney show, animated show was on. So I would line up my stuffed animals on a couch down in the basement, and I would do all the voices. So that's how my mom discovered that I was doing voices and got me into that class. She thought I had friends over. So Michigan's a great state to be from. I always say Michigan's a great place to start. I'm very happy to be in California. And, but wow, that's great that so are you still in Lansing?
No, actually I live on the west side of the state now, just about 45 minutes northwest of Grand Rapids, close to Lake Michigan.
Oh yeah, my mother was born in Muskegon.
Oh, that's about 30 minutes down the road from me.
So I've been to Grand Rapids. Used to be a restaurant called Bill Knapp's, and they
still
had
there.
Best. No way! You're joking?
No, not joking.
Oh my God! They didn't have it in East Lansing, or I would have been the best fried chicken ever. I remember.
Yeah, it's pretty popular.
Oh my God!
See, and I was born and raised in Hastings, so 45 minutes from Lansing.
A bunch of Michiganders here.
We are all Michiganders.
That's so great! I'm excited. I didn't know.
All three of us still live in Michigan. I don't live in Hastings anymore. I actually live north of Saginaw now. But
I know Saginaw.
Yeah,
I know Saginaw.
Yeah, I'm in the Standish area, so I am in the middle of flat cornfields, which is a lot different than the southwest part of the state, but it's still pretty cool.
Yeah. I had the funniest experience. So I went to this fabulous little Comic-Con in East Lansing put on by Adam Winters. Sweetest guy. It was a lovely experience. I had so many wonderful fans come. It was really fun. So I get off the plane and I'm like smelling. I'm like, oh my God, it smells like grass, and not the kind grass, the green stuff.
The medical things. Yes, understood. Of course.
No, not the medical thing. Grass.
Oh, actual grass. Okay. I knew that. Of course, that's what we were talking about. Why would it be anything else on a family-friendly science fiction show?
Because the biggest manufacturer of that area is like 20 minutes from my house.
Oh, okay. Well, I just don't remember Lansing smelling like fresh mowed grass when I was a kid.
And it is one of those things that when you get to the green part of the state and you're like, oh, trees and oxygen. It's a beautiful state. Oh yeah, and then the sneezing hits you. Totally. So April had started out as a comic book character and then was given life as an animated character. Her job was also changed in the process. She had been a computer programmer, but then was a news reporter on the show. So she underwent some change and development, even in pre-production. So how much of your delivery and the personality of April came from source material, and how much of it was you?
None of it was from source material because we didn't have it. Okay, I'm going to really date myself. No internet, no cell phones, no way to find out about this stuff unless you were into comic books. And the first time I saw the comic book was when Stu Rosen, who's the director, showed it to us before we auditioned. So there was no source material. And they didn't want to let too much out of the bag when we were auditioning. I had a line sketch in black and white of what April looked like. I knew she was a news reporter. And she was the first character that ever was kind of me. I'm kind of tough. I'm 4'10", I'm not that tall, but I've lived all over the world, and I'm not a damsel in distress. I'm kind of tough. So I modeled her after me, and a couple of the women reporters that were on local television, on the local news. And it wasn't until much later that we really became familiar with the dark side of Ninja Turtles and the original book. And, they always wanted us to go darker with so if you notice, if you're a real fan, you notice that at the beginning of each season, the episodes are a little darker. There's not as much laughing. There's not as much, talking back and forth and wisecracking. But then after a couple of the episodes were in the can, it started going back to the way the guys are, which I think is, I think it's what gave it the life and the joy and the multi-generational levels, because kids will understand it one way and adults will understand it another, because the guys were so clever. They bring in references to all these famous people and the old comic actors, the Laurel and Hardy, the Three Stooges, the Marx Brothers. They emulated all of that. And so as you get older and you watch it, you go, oh, that's a reference to A Night at the Opera, or any number of things. And so that darkness of the comic book really wasn't our thing. And we fought against it. It was not the guys didn't want to do that. We didn't really want to do that.
So we all have those moments in life where if someone was filming this, it would go onto our gag reel. So what would be on the gag reel of your life?
The gag reel? Okay. The gag reel of my life is a very simple joke. You know how to make God laugh? Make a plan. I'm a planner. So every time you make a plan, it usually goes in a different direction than you thought it was going to go in. So I think that could be kind of, I really wanted to turn right, but I ended up turning left instead. And then this door opened, and, they say luck is preparation meeting opportunity. And so I'm not sure if I quite understand your question, but
I guess I was more so looking for right. I guess I was more so looking for a funny situation, like maybe backstage or something, that like with some of the crew.
The funniest thing, and there were so many things, honestly, and it was so long ago, but to me the funniest thing was interacting with James Avery. So James was giant. I don't know how tall James was, but I'm 4'10". I don't know. He looked like 6'10" to me. And he was almost as wide as he was tall. Big guy. And a laugh. And, he could be intimidating until you got to know him. And James never wore shoes. Never wore shoes. This guy, you'd think Uncle Phil would, he probably had Gucci shoes on the show, but he never wore shoes in real life. And I would come into the studio and James would look at me and he would open his wide arms, wrap his arms around me, and pick me up and just laugh. And my little feet would be going like this in the air. And that was kind of a running joke between the two of us, because I was the littlest and he was the biggest. Yeah, but mainly the humor, the guys were and still are so quick-witted and so funny. April O'Neil was kind of the straight person to their humor, and so the funny was the guys. They are brilliant, and I think there might be some outtakes out there somewhere, and if so, they'd be great to get your hands on, because these guys are hysterical.
Yeah, sounds like a good time. As soon as you said James Avery, I'm like, wait a minute, that's Dr. Phil, or not Dr. Phil, Uncle Phil. Anyway, I had don't ask, it's been a day. But so I was thinking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of course, because we're, our conversation here. But April is not the only character that you've gotten to play in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles universe. Now, a few years back, you were brought back to be Mrs. O'Neil, April O'Neil's mother. So what did it mean to you to be brought back in the series to voice April's mother?
It was great. Of course, I had hoped that April's mother had been a real character and that I would have been brought back many times. But unfortunately, she was not. She was a butt, and they booted her butt right off the show. But it was great. The Nickelodeon studios are beautiful. I got to work with Andrea Romano, who's one of the premier voiceover directors. I got to go back a number of times because they did it in a different way than we did it. I just recorded by myself, which was, that's what's being done now, where before we all sat together, kind of like an old radio show, and did it together, which enabled the characters to develop and get that banter. They probably would have been able to make us be more dark and sinister, and like the comic book had, they brought us into individually. But that's not, thank God that's not what happened. But it was wonderful. How lucky am I, and continue to represent April O'Neil in Comic-Cons and on podcasts, and to be able to talk to people who identify with the character. I'm the luckiest person in the world. I really am.
That's cool. Well, we had opportunity just a little while ago to talk with Larry Kenney, who was the voice of Lion-O from Thundercats. And he was brought back later to also play a couple of other characters in the more recent incantations of that show. And he expressed similar thoughts to you about the immense privilege he felt for being included in these more modern day takes on the show. But as a side thought to all of that, did you notice any differences between the way that your character was portrayed then and how they're doing April now? And did you go, oh, that'd have been cool, I wish I could have done that? Or do you think, or was there anything like that?
Well, April in that iteration was a teenager. So it had nothing to do with my April. So no, I haven't felt that way. I'm very biased about my April, and
fair enough.
I'm very happy for those who've had the opportunity to play her in other iterations, but I'm always going to be the first. Yeah.
They will never take that away from you, that is for sure.
They can't take that away from me.
There's something to be said about being the original April. Nobody else gets to be the original. So as you've already mentioned, the writers wanted to take the series in a darker, more serious direction, but the guys kept making it lighter and funnier. So you had already mentioned some of the comedic influences that the guys had, but was there anything else that they did that helped maintain that sort of humor and frivolity during your recording sessions, or was it just that they're just general goofballs?
they're general goofballs. The entire cast are friends. We generally love each other. We generally genuinely relate to each other. You know, I think everyone out there can relate to different aspects of the Turtles. Again, another reason why they're so iconic. You've got different kinds of personalities with different kinds of interests, and these guys really personified the Turtles, and they are always trying to crack everybody up. So when we were rehearsing, they did it. When we were on break, they did it. When we were recording, they did it. So yeah, that's who they are.
So we have a large Facebook group with over 132,000 members at the moment, and these guys are meme junkies. And one of the funniest sources of entertainment is the crossover between two memes, like the person from this story or universe into that story or universe. So if you were like a holiday writer for a movie or show, what character would you take from story A and drop him or her into story B? And what are your results?
Okay, guys, I have to confess something. I don't get memes. I don't get them. So,
Like your phone is incapable of receiving them, or?
No, my brain isn't. I don't get memes. My kids think I'm hysterical because they'll show me something and I go, I don't get it. Okay, so if I had two characters that I could mash together, would be April O'Neil and Snow White. How's that? Because April O'Neil is always wishing, I'm wishing for a real life boyfriend and not a turtle. So I guess that would be it.
That's perfect.
And she said she didn't get memes.
Okay, I guess I got one.
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Well, Renae, thank you so much for being on the show today. Where can people go to find out more about your work and what you're doing now? Well,
they can get me on Instagram, which is Renae, RENAE _L _Jacobs, JACOBS. Or they can go to my Facebook page, which is Renae Jacobs. Very excited, got some great stuff coming up. We've got a fabulous signing coming up on July 31st with the whole cast, with the guys and me on streamly.com. And we've got some Comic-Cons coming up. We're going to Orlando for Fanboy. We're going to be in Las Vegas. We're going to be, unless they cancel them, of course, but that's the plan. We've got a number of them and we're posting, everybody's posting about it. And there's going to be some exclusive items that are being signed. So if anybody's a true collector and wants something that very few people will have, they should go look on our Instagram and Facebook pages and see what's up there. And that's it.
We will definitely make sure that we have links to your social media specifically in the episode description so that all of our beautiful viewers and listeners can find you, find out what you're doing, and figure out where they can meet you in person.
All right, guys, we also want to remind everyone that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to ensure to get more amazing guests like Renae Jacobs today and funny moments for you guys to listen to, and of course voluntary memes for you to look at that she's not going to understand, but that's beside the point. So please subscribe. It's going to help far more than you're ever going to know, and be sure to go check out Renae's social media as well, and so you guys can figure out where to find her and get some really cool autographed items, because she's doing a ton of signing events, and if you're a TMNT fan, that should be a must. Now, if you're not happy with the content of our videos, all you have to do is submit in single form to Master Splinter. Master Splinter is so efficient in his training of young ninjas and apparently handling complaint departments that he only needs one copy of your complaint. That one copy will allow him to send his best 4 ninjas to handle the cause for that complaint. Of course, one of the 3 of us. Now, if these pizza-loving heroes in a half shell can handle the Foot Clan and Shredder, we can be sure that our podcasting rears don't stand a chance.
Thanks again, Renae.
You're so welcome. You guys are wonderful. I appreciate you asking me to come on, and I'm so proud of the work that you're doing for charity and helping people, and appreciate your fabulous questions. They're really some of the best questions I've been asked. Some of the questions I had no idea what you were talking about, but
That's just Nick for you.
That's just half the fun.
that's it. And I hope that I hope sometime to come to Motor City Comic-Con and meet you guys.
For
know?
sure.
That would be wonderful.
All of your viewers request that they want Renae Jacobs, April O'Neil to come, then the promoters will invite us, invite me, invite the guys, and then we can come out and meet you guys.
That'd be great. We'd love that.
Email Motor City Comic Con tonight.
Okay, deal.
Awesome.
All right. Very good. All right, guys. That's going to conclude us today for Funny Science Fiction. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wichita Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 17. He'll know that when he puts on the red shirt only to be graded by the Shredder, he'll know that he didn't leave his family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has his back, and what's left of his pizza.
And speaking of sponsors and show partners, let's check out this short video from our good friends over at Level Up Lightsaber. Information about Level Up Lightsabers and their online training sessions can be found in the episode description below.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of Funny Science Fiction, we'd like to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on one of our future episodes, please contact us by means of our Facebook group, Funny Science Fiction. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FunnySci-Fi, or you can go to DraytonAllen.com and click the Contact Me link at the bottom of the page. Thanks again. Hope you enjoyed the episode.